The first question is from John. It's not a question. He actually recommended a topic that he wants me to bring up. And these are in his exact words. Talk about how desperate people are for a relationship downloading dating apps. So let me reiterate, those are his exact words. Me personally, I wouldn't use the word desperate if I were to discuss this phenomena, because I actually think the word desperate can at times have a negative connotation. And I actually think if I'm going to use a different word in replacement, I might say eagerness, obsessiveness, which can also have negative connotations, but it's not quite as negative as the word desperate in my opinion. So I'm going to replace the word desperate and with obsessed. So I think a lot of people right now are obsessed with wanting to find a relationship and seeking desperately, I guess I am going to use the word desperate here, desperately seeking some sort of validation on these dating apps. I actually think this is a very normal phenomena, and I think it's a direct result of the disconnection that we're currently feeling in our society today. I think while there are wonderful things about technology, there's many benefits about technology. First of all, I'm able to create this video, so people in some ways are connecting through podcasting. I also think, just like anything else, while there are good things, some hearts and minds of people do lead with greed. And I think right now, a lot of what we're seeing in the technological era is very greed, money, lust based. And because of that, a lot of content being created is specifically for the purpose of making money, and they'll do whatever means necessary to do that. So that could be, sending out content, creating content and putting it out there that is intentionally designed to make you angry, putting out content that's news that's supposed to scare you, anything that's going to get you to click, putting out overly sexualized content in order to get you to click. They're just playing with the human emotions. And I think as human beings, some of us, myself included, are sort of losing the ability to even control our own actions because there's so much media being thrown at us that is intended for us to click on and intended for us to engage with and spend time. That's how they make the money. The more time, the more watch hours and the more views that people get, that's how they make their money now. And I think because of that, there's just this sort of loss of meaning within the individual collective souls of our generation. And I think we're all feeling it. And, everybody might phrase that a different way. And I'm sure there's some outliers of people who genuinely have figured it out and have figured out how to maintain family and have figured out how to maintain connection in our current society. But I do think a large number of people are feeling very isolated. A lot of post 2020, a lot of things transition to online. So I this is a long-winded way to basically say the nature of our present society is creating disconnection for the most part. And I think it's causing people to desperately, and I use that word with no judgment, desperately seek some sort of meaning and connection. And it only makes sense that they would say, maybe if I find someone to love me, I'll find that connection. And I mean, it's actually a completely valid thing. I think the problem is these dating apps, and this is from what I've heard. I don't want to have this conspiracy theory type of mentality around dating apps because I'm sure you can meet a partner on these things. And I'm sure, I know personally people who have gotten married off of dating apps. So you can actually genuinely build real connections off these dating apps. However, I think in general, especially as, like I said, have the times progressed to which spending more time on the internet creates more money for people, I think that these dating apps are now designed in a way to keep you hooked. So I think because of that, that's part of the desperation as well, is that people are going there genuinely to find real connection, but they're somehow getting lost in the design of the app to keep you hooked, to keep you continuing to look, to make you wonder, is there something better out there? I also think aside from genuine connection, I think a lot of people, and I think this more so particularly affects men more than women. And I say this because I know I am a woman on these dating apps, and not right now. I'm not on the dating apps right now, but I've been a woman on the dating apps in the past. And as a woman on these apps, I've found that it's incredibly easy to make a match or to make a connection with somebody. I've heard personally from my male friends that they have to work extra hard to make a match or a connection on this app, unless they're just a gorgeous looking man who's 6'5". They get all the attention, and everybody else who's not 6'5" and gorgeous, who would actually be incredibly attractive partners in real life most of the time, because all of the energy's focused online. A lot of the women are matching with the very 10 out of 10 attractive guy, and a lot of these men who actually, if they just put themselves out in real life, would probably get a lot of female attention. A lot of these men are actually starting to have a lot of self-doubt and a lot of self-hatred, and then they're obsessively continuing to look for matches on these apps as a way to validate their self-worth. So I understand the phenomena you're talking about. I try to have a more empathetic approach to understanding it, just because I think based on the condition of our times, it's actually incredibly normal to be obsessively checking these apps. But I think people would probably do better stepping away and from these apps temporarily if they're getting into an obsessed state of mind about it, and to learn, depending on which one of those scenarios I'm talking about. If you're a man who's obsessively checking these because you want validation for your self-worth, then I would say in that case, it's probably best to get off the apps and to genuinely look at yourself and work on yourself and spend time with yourself and learn how to have that self-worth on your own. And to also be honest with yourself. Are there ways in which you can improve yourself that you would have more luck on these apps? Are you out of shape? Or how's your personality? Are you learning things, because women do have high standards, but it's for a reason. And it's actually a benefit to men for women to have high standards, because if a woman has high standards for a man, well, that's just going to make you a better man. So I think in those cases, just take some time away from the apps and self-assess, work on the areas where you actually genuinely could improve, and also maybe learn how to self-validate for some time and figure out what that means, how to love yourself before you could put yourself out there. In the cases of where it's not so much about self-validation and it's more so about just genuinely needing connection, my personal advice, and I speak as this from somebody who has a lot of experience with this because I used to desperately seek that meaning in romantic relationships. I'm now learning to find that meaning in other ways. So I'm actually actively not dating right now until I really take care of this part of myself. I'm really focusing on my creativity. I'm focusing on reading a lot. I'm focusing on learning things that actually really make me feel whole and satisfied as a human being. And I'm also focusing on finding my own connection to my spirituality. I'm learning how to meditate daily, which is very difficult for me. I'm learning how to journal, which is very difficult for me. I hate journaling, but I'm starting to fall in love with it. So for me, I'm trying to find that meaning in other ways before I jump back into the dating world. And also, as far as the connection goes, connection is a real feeling and it is a real need that human beings need. But right now I'm learning that I don't need to make that connection through a romantic partner right now if I don't want to. So I'm actually really focusing on building a network of friends. And it's a slow process because I'm very picky about who I spend my time with, even when it comes to friends. But I'm slowly building a team of friends that I can rely on and make that connection there. As far as the sexual connection goes, which is also a very valid and necessary human need, I'm just taking care of business by myself at the moment. And I don't want to have like a friends with benefits type of situation because I think that's just going to put me in a situation where I might fall in love with somebody that I'm not really ready to put myself out there. So I'm being very patient, but I'm also under the belief that the long game is the better game, if that makes sense, because I've tried the quick impulsive game in the past with almost everything that I've done, my relationships, and I'm finding that have faith in what's the classic quote, good things come to those who wait. I'm really living by that principle right now, and I'm just taking care of any sexual needs by myself right now, and I'm just working on myself and trusting the whole process. So I know that was a lot for one answer, but I hope that answers your question as much as it possibly could. Okay. The next question is from James Mac Comedy.